Welcome to FRC Media News for Thursday, May 5th, 2016. I'm Keith Tebow. On this week's show, we get school committee member Paul Coogan's view on the recently passed proposed school department budget for fiscal year 2017. State Representative Alan Sylvia's thoughts on the House budget that was overwhelmingly passed last week at the State House. And on the economic front, we give information on free seminars offered by the Fall River Office of Economic Development in conjunction with the Small Business Association. But let's start off with talking about the news headlines of the week, as we are joined again by Will Richmond, the Digital City Editor over at the Herald News in downtown Fall River. Hey, Will, how are you?
I'm good, Keith. How's it going today?
Good, good. A lot more on our plate. Let's get right to our top story, which we'll have more on a little bit later. The school committee this week voted to approve a school department budget for the coming year of $137.3 million, $3.7 million below what they considered originally the school department level funding. What's the machinations of this, Will? I guess let's talk about what happens next. It'll go to the mayor, then to the city council, I would assume.
Well, the next step in the process is a public hearing will be held on the budget, I believe May 23rd. This will provide the public the opportunity to weigh in on that formally proposed number you just mentioned, and allow them to offer their take on what should be cut, what should be kept, make their in the budget overall. I can't imagine there'll be many that come out to pitch decrease in it, but you never know. And then after that process, the budget, that number gets formally sent to the mayor's office. No, the mayor does not have to put that number in the municipal budget. So the mayor is at his discretion to put the number he feels is most responsible to balance the overall municipal budget, which includes both the school side and all municipal expenses as well.
Now, was the mayor at the meeting last night, and did he vote for this?
To be honest, I'm not sure if he was at the meeting last night. I haven't had a chance to catch up with the reporter who attended last night's meeting, so I'm not sure if he was there or not. But I know the mayor has said, especially in a meeting that he held with Fall River teachers last week, that he is aiming for funding it at 100% of net school spending, which is below the number that was approved last night.
All right, that's about, I believe, 133 million or so.
Yeah, approximately in that area.
Yeah, so if that's the mayor's feelings, there'll probably some more cuts that will be coming forward on the school department. And then, of course, when the mayor presents his full budget to the city council, this will be just one part of it. But as you said, the mayor does have the opportunity to make further cuts. So we'll be following this as it goes along. But another step forward for the school department. And some of the things that were cut, Will, in this budget had to do with longer extended day services, and also a program called Gateway to College, which introduces high school students who are having a difficult time getting through their high school careers, taking courses here at BCC to help them with that transition. So those appear to be the two biggest cuts from last week.
Yeah, those two have certainly been identified. They have said that they will allow the current students in the Gateway to College program to complete their work, but they will not take on any new students. And as for the extended learning time, they're not looking to wipe it out completely, but it will be shortened at schools that do employ it.
All right, so obviously we'll have more when it becomes available. All right, next up, Will, the mayor of Fall River, Mayor Jazio Correa, just came back from a trip to the Azores. And, you know, whenever we see or hear about a mayor or any local politicians, not just in Fall River, happen to go away, especially overseas on a trip, a lot of questions come up. How was it paid for? What's the purpose? This is really nothing new. Mayors in the past have gone to the Azores on an economic development mission, and this one wasn't any different, and from what we understand was actually picked up by the government of the Azores.
Right. Like you said, it's not unusual that mayors have gone over to the Azores. The local legislative delegation seems to make an at least annual trip over there, typically in the spring. So the bonds between Fall River and the Azores are certainly strong. Everyone in the area is pretty well aware of that. So as mayor, this is his first trip over there. He came at the invite of the president there in the Azores. The next question is what comes from this, and
Hmm.
that's something that time will tell.
Right. But there's always those who will like to question how was this paid for? Were there any city dollars involved? And for what we understand, based on the Herald News reporting, that this was just, again, paid directly by the government of the Azores, which I think they've done in the past for previous mayors.
Correct. I believe that is the case as well.
All right. This week, the Indiana primary for the presidential election was held, and it pretty much set clear now who will be the presumptive nominees for the Democrat and Republican primary election nominees coming up this year. It's going to be Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. But the Herald News has put a story today about the fact that this November, Fall River voters will have an opportunity for extended voting. Talk about that.
Yeah, the final details are still to be worked out, but it appears beginning this fall, voters will be able to go and cast their ballots about up to 2 weeks in advance of the actual election date. Like I said, the Board of Elections commissioners will still be trying to determine where exactly that will take place, who will oversee the process. And they are also looking to get a Saturday involved in that schedule as well to allow people to come on the weekend. This is aimed to increase voter turnout, give people more options for voting. One thing that's very important to know is that the votes that are submitted prior to election day are not tabulated on the day they are submitted. They will not be tabulated until election day itself. So there'll be no hints in terms of where voters stand on issues going into this.
Now, this is part of a new state law that allows communities to do this. It's not required, is it? Is it just a recommendation that communities can extend their voting period?
Yeah, I believe the state wants to provide the opportunity, but at the same time, not put the financial burden on towns to do it if they're unable to. So, I think for a place like Fall River that has a dedicated elections office, it makes a lot more sense.
And any reason why this was not done for the presidential primary and why it won't be done for the state primary coming up in September?
Not sure of that reason. It may have just been a matter of timing in terms of when the law was passed and implementation. So, but I think the aim as well is, especially this year and at least locally, the September election is looking to be a fairly quiet primary. And certainly November is when, with the presidential, you expect a large turnout, and that's the time you really want to offer the options for voting.
Right. So you'll have an opportunity in November, which is traditionally during a presidential year, is usually a well-attended election, usually a decent turnout for the presidential election. So you'll have a little more time to make your voice heard. All right, finally, Will, before we go on to what's coming up in the Herald News, interesting story over the past week and a half or so. Local high school students falling ill due to the consumption of seeds and potentially the perception and the outcome of that consumption. Durfee High School had its junior prom about a week and a half ago, about a week ago now, I guess, in Westport and Dartmouth at Rachel's Lakesider, and 6 to 8 students became ill over that. And I guess it's something that students have done for quite some time. I don't remember doing it. I never did it as a student, but it seems to be an issue that local police departments are now confronting.
Yeah, it's certainly, this was new to me hearing about it yesterday, but certainly it seems that it does trace back to the past, and there has been previous use of it. And even doing some Google searches yesterday to try to get a little background on this. A simple Google search of the names of the seeds immediately came up with links to how they can be used as hallucinogenics and that kind of thing. So it's not as uncommon as it may appear. But in the case locally, police have become concerned enough that at least Somerset police went to the Home Depot in that town and asked them to at least take the seeds off the shelves. They are still for sale. You just have to ask for them, which may be important in case your mom wanted some morning glories for Mother's Day this weekend. But yeah, a new health concern. Hopefully the warning is out now. It's obviously this information is widespread. Letters have gone out to families in many school districts locally, and obviously it's made the rounds in the news cycle as well. So, if you see flower packet seed packets around your house, make sure they're getting planted, I guess.
Yeah, I guess every generation had its thing, so this happens to be this generation's thing. Hopefully no one gets seriously injured from the consumption of these seeds. All right, Will, what's happening at the Herald News over the next few days?
Coming up this weekend, we're taking a look at the recent sort of explosion in the efforts to build market rate housing here in Fall River. You have the work being done over at Commonwealth Landing. The purchaser of the mill over on Alden Street recently announced plans to construct market rate housing there. And obviously it's a target of Mayor Correa as well, who has said that the city needs to attract more residents that are interested in that type of housing. So that's something we'll be looking at this weekend. And, certainly we're starting to get into the meat of budget season. So that will be an ongoing topic for us to follow.
Absolutely, not just here in Fall River, but all cities and towns across the Commonwealth, with July 1 coming very, very soon. All right, Will, thanks for joining us. Have a great week.
All right, same to you, Keith.
We'll have more FRC Media News right after this short break.
This is Shiloh. Shiloh is about 1 year old, still very much a puppy, very wiggly, very playful. He was actually a transfer here from another animal shelter who somehow wasn't able nobody was interested in adopting him for some reason. I don't know why, because he's very playful, very much good-mannered. He's good with other dogs, with other cats, good with kids of any age range. He's just all around a good guy, though a little bit distractible.
This is Faith. She's a 2-year-old domestic short hair. She's a little timid, a little scared, but once you let her warm up to you, she'll let you pet her, and she likes to cuddle.
The Fall River School Committee passed a proposed school department budget for fiscal year 2017 this week. This budget, which includes a $3.7 million in cuts, will now go to the full City Council for its consideration. We asked School Committee member Paul Coogan his thoughts about what he felt was the hardest cuts to make.
In your opinion, and obviously as a school committee member, but in your opinion, what was the toughest part of looking at the cuts in the school budget?
People. Cutting people, it's tough. People, that's a job. They may have bought a house. They may have children. It's no fun. It's if you go to like School Spring or some of the education sites, there's tons of jobs out there right now. So I'm hoping they all land on their feet. But I'm not a big fan of cutting people. There's not many other places to go. I'd like to look at health care. I'd like to look at some of our out-of-district costs for special needs students, which we're still working on. I was down at the ad building yesterday briefly, so we're still looking for other places where there may be some cuts that we can do to help the community, and we'll try to do it.
Well, I just want to make sure we're clear. You don't want to make cuts in special education.
No. What I want to do is as we did with the Stone School, which is a K to 8 day program. No, that would mischaracterize what I'm saying. When we have students that don't fit into one of our existing programs, sometimes we have to send them out to another placement. But if we had those placements in the district, we may be able to keep them in next to their family, next to their friends, and not place them out. But you have to provide the same level of services. That's what we did with Stone School, which I toured this year, and I was favorably impressed with the programs down there under the principal, Mary Ellen Shaw. She probably has 40, 45 students that could have been in and out of district placement, which is terribly expensive. And if there's a way to get a program going for our high school kids, I support that. But not cutting services, just locating them closer to home, and again, closer to their friends.
Now, when you say closer to home, are you saying just to move them to another school?
No, yes, to a school in our district.
Okay.
What we might do now is, like, for example, there's South Coast Collaborative, which is in Seekonk. What I'm saying is we don't have to bus them to Seekonk. We can bus them to an existing building in our district in Fall River, or St. Vincent's Home is another one. Instead of them going to St. Vincent's Home, which is in our district, we keep them at a school. If we can find a suitable program that's equal to the services they're getting, not cutting services, same services, but in the Fall River Public Schools. It's something to look at. We've talked about it long term, but I'd like to put a little bit of a rush up on it if we could.
Coogan was also asked his thoughts about school transportation issues and whether cuts could be made in this area if necessary.
I think 82% of our transportation costs are special needs students. A lot of these costs grow exponentially when you don't even have a shot to control them. I think, again, maybe the way we go to that, I know the mayor's looking at it, maybe we hire a busing consultant, someone that does this for a living, to come in here and look at our routes, look at where we may be able to double them up, which I know the city does all the time anyway, but maybe there's another way to do it. You know, there are other ways to reinvent the wheel, and looking again for savings. I'm not against any kind of savings as long as we're not leaving kids on the corners anywhere. I'm not doing that.
I was going to actually say, obviously money and budgeting is a problem. Do you feel like with the cuts that the school department is being forced to make, do you believe that it will cut down on the quality of education our kids are receiving?
Well, it's going to cut down on services they're receiving or some of the programs. As I said to you, I was trying to look at the day bell to bell, when they get in the morning to when they leave, trying to stay on the outside of that if possible. If for example, the worst case scenario is we had to cut the entire $8 million, it would dramatically affect services to students. It would really be a knock on the city. What we did was we tried to keep as many programs intact and stay around with minimizing the cuts as best we could.
The Massachusetts House has unanimously passed its budget for the 351 cities and towns in the Commonwealth in a recent unanimous vote. A vote State Representative Alan Sylvia tells FRC Media News he's pleased with.
So I'm pretty proud of that Massachusetts is able to work with both Democrats and Republicans and reach a unanimous conclusion. 156 voted yes. So we're pleased at that. You know, when we're talking a budget that's north of $40 billion, that's a lot of resources, a lot of taxpayer dollars involved. And this particular budget was really focused on giving money back to the people, to those issues that we're concerned with, local aid in particular, increasing those numbers for Chapter 70, education. As most people know, the governor's budget was, his proposed budget was 1.4% of expected revenues for the Commonwealth, which was far lower than he had even suggested when he campaigned. Cities like Fall River are suffering when it comes to education, and so we were able to increase that. We actually went, the Commonwealth went from $25 per student to $55 per student, and getting those Chapter 70 dollars up. But even though, and I have some numbers, for Fall River, the increase for Chapter 70 is $107,141,000 now. That's a lot of money, but it's still not enough. And as you can see right now in Fall River, they're working at cutting $3.5 or $3.4 million from the school budget. So even though it exceeds more than 80% of the local school budget, that's what the state dollars coming in, it's still not enough. So we're continuing to look at that formula that is being used in the state that distributes education monies to cities, especially those gateway communities like Fall River, those 26 communities that really have that need, and the student population, especially those students that weigh heavy, especially in special needs issues and special education, transportation problems. So unrestricted general aid is at $22,912,000. So we're looking at $23 million. That's money the city can use in any direction that it feels. So again, an increase.
We'll have more FRC Media News right after this.
Here are some positions on the newest hot job list for the week of May 2nd through May 8th. Speech pathologist, job number 726-5551. Parent-to-parent coordinator, job number 725-3461. Office assistant, job number 726-5527. Family support associate, job number 727-0377. Licensed child psychologist, job number 726-5357. Cashier, job number 727-4634. For more information, visit frcmedianews.org or call the Fall River Career Center at 508-730-5000.
Entrepreneurs who want to start their own business can sign up for a series of free workshops by calling the Office of Economic Development at 508-324-2000. Donna Mata spoke with one business owner who intends to go to every workshop to get as much information as possible to open his own business, hopefully in a Fall River building location.
I know this is not your first seminar. So far, how have they been working for you?
I find them pretty enlightening, and they give you a good avenue to sort of project where you want your business to go. And I'm really looking forward to the one today, sponsored by the Fall River Office of Economic Development, and I'm looking forward to hear what Mike Mata has to say about the financing aspect of running a business.
Which is always a concern, obviously. And do you have any finance background?
I do not, so it'll be interesting to hear what he has to say.
And do you have a business plan?
I'm working on that right now. That was one of the other classes I've taken, so that's always a work in progress, and actually taking these other classes really helps to move along that business plan and fill out all the different areas.
So you would recommend the seminars to other people?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much, Eric.
You're welcome.
Parents and guardians who are raising girls may want to consider signing them up for the Girl Scouts here in Fall River. Donna Mata spoke with co-leaders of Troop 1076, Darlene Kucher and Liz Clayton. Both said the benefits of joining is to help young girls from kindergarten through 12th grade grow into a mature, responsible, and independent young woman who can give back to the community through project learning and service. Liz says the troop meetings start off in part with the Girl Scout Promise.
Liz, I know that you know the Girl Scout Promise by heart, so why don't you tell us what it is?
On my honor, I will try to serve God and my country, to help people at all times, and to live by the Girl Scout law.
Girl Scouts also earn badges once they've completed their training, among them cooking and camping.
Let me turn it around and show everyone the badges. And we know how easy they are to get on. No.
There's a technique. Yes, there is a technique.
There is a technique, and actually I think Darlene's going to explain that technique.
You have to heat up the uniform first with the iron. Heat it up as hot as you can get it, and then put the patch on. Put a towel over it, and then hold it there. And then you let it cool, and then you gotta hold it there for another 15 seconds, and then you let it cool. By that second time of letting it cool, you should be good. But guaranteed, after them wearing that and running around like the maniacs that they do, them iron-ons never stay. You end up inevitably sewing them. Inevitably sewing them. They don't stay.
But this is a visual aid to the Girl Scouts and the cadets and even the Daisies, I know you give the badges to, because they earn them, correct?
Yes.
So what kind of badges, let's say, are here?
The cleanup,
Okay.
the cookie sales, what else did the sock hop, coat drive. We did a yogurt tour. We went to a good for you place. We do Christmas caroling for the elderly at nursing homes. Wherever they'll let us go, we'll go. What else did we do? We made ornaments for the elderly also.
So these patches are the rewards for the Girl Scouts, actually. How many can they earn? Is there a set limit?
Nope, as many as they can. These on the back are all fun patches. Those are anything that we do, whether it's a field trip or a service project or anything that they do on their own, we can find a fun patch for. And then there's actually the program guide where they have different badges. These two belong to that. I don't have them all on here. But they did public speaking and...
You're talking about the badges on the...
Yep, on the front.
On the front.
They did public speaking and they did secret agent. This year, they've also done, they're working on a media journey. So they're learning about TV and the media right now.
For more information about how to join the Girl Scout troop, Google Southern New England Girl Scouts. That's all for this edition of FRC Media News. You can catch this program Thursdays and Fridays at 6 p.m., but our online news site is available 24/7 at frcmedianews.org. For all of us here at FRC Media News, I'm Keith Tebow. Have a great week. We'll see you next Thursday.